This is the Fearless Agent Podcast, where you learn how to make way more money fast selling real estate with your host, the Fearless Agent himself, Bob Loeffler.
Good day to you. This is Bob here at the Fearless Agent Podcast for real estate sales professionals like you. And we explain that everything that you've been taught by the entire real estate industry is exactly wrong, and you will make lots more money in way less time by doing the exact opposite. So last week, I think we were talking about a listing presentation process that lets people know what's at stake. This is about success or failure. So I'm just going to continue on that theme. So again, when you're walking up the driveway to go to your listing appointment, and every fearless agent has booked a listing appointment that includes six or some ingredients, let's put it that way. So number one is all the decision makers are there. If it's a husband and wife, they're both going to be there, and you don't go meet with one of them if they're not both there. If you think your presentation stinks, wait till you hear the husband give it to the wife after you've left, okay? So all the decision makers are there. They have to be motivated. You have to have tricked them into a 2-hour slot without letting them know it's going to take 2 hours. Every fearless agent knows how to do that effortlessly. You've gathered all the information on the initial appointment setting phone call to do a complete ballpark market analysis. You've asked them the $1 million question, which is if you were going to win $1 million by guessing correctly, what price realistically do you think a buyer would pay for your house? So you know the seller's price opinion. You've asked them the magic way fearless agents do to find out exactly how much they owe. And then you've got everything you need to get a gettable listing appointment. So when we show up, we're going to do a 10-step listing process. So if I were you, I'd get out a clean sheet of paper and just write these down. So the first thing we're going to do is give an introduction that I'm going to teach you today that puts you in charge immediately. And this process, by the way, is the opposite of what every other coach teaches. So make sure you write this down. This is going to give you a much better chance of getting the listing. So you're going to give an introduction that gets their head right, puts you in charge, lets them realize this is about success or failure, so they are paying attention. Then you're going to go through a little outline of, what's going to happen to them while you're in their home. And that makes them feel comfortable. Then you're going to ask them a series of questions, and these questions are designed to sell them on the idea that no agent will ever care more about them than you do. No agent would ever care more about their money and getting them top dollar for their house than you will. And when they're sold on those two things, you will always get the listing. You will get it at full commission. You will get it for full term, and you'll have them begging you to underprice their house like every fearless agent does. Then you go on the tour of the property, okay? After they're 100% sold on you, and there's no doubt that you're going to be their agent, then you're going to go on the tour of the property. Then you're going to come back and do your listing presentation, and then they're going to make a decision on whether you're the agent for them or not. You will be. And then you're going to give the pricing presentation. Then you're going to ask a closing question. Then you're going to get the signature, and then you're going to get out. Okay? So it's intro, outline, questions, tour property, marketing plan, decision, pricing strategy, closing question, SIGGI, and get out. All right, that's the 10-step process that every fearless agent follows that has us getting much better results than their competitors. So what do all the other coaches who know nothing about sales teach? Well, they have you taking the tour first. Now, that is a biblical level disaster. Once you go on the tour and you sit down at the kitchen table, they're going to say, so what do you think our house is worth? and you've seen the house. So it's impossible it's very difficult not to start talking price. And the basic of sales in real estate is you never talk commission until they're sold on the price. You never talk about pricing until they're sold on listing their house with you tonight. And you never talk about you and your company and the way you do business until they're sold on the idea of using a realtor. So if it's a for sale by owner, they must be sold on the idea of using a realtor. You have a Fearless Agent for sale by owner presentation for that. Once they're sold on that, only then would you talk about you and your company. And once they're sold on listing their house with you tonight, only then would you ever mention pricing. Once they're sold on the pricing strategy, only then would you ever talk commission. And if you follow those steps in the right order, you're going to have a much, much better way of going. So the way it goes for every Fearless Agent is, you've booked the listing appointment. It is a gettable listing appointment. They are motivated. All the decision makers are there. You have booked an appointment where you have the 2 hours to spend. Nobody's going to be leaving halfway through your listing presentation. They know why they're there, why you're there, and you've gotten them to answer, and you've gathered all the CMA information. So you've done a CMA. Now, you're never going to show them the CMA. They're never going to see a market analysis. There's going to be none of that. No Fearless Agent ever shows a market analysis or comps or anything like that. But you have it, and you know what their house would sell for guaranteed in 30 days. You know what asking price would cause you to get one showing a day in the MLS. That would be the definition of fair market value. And then you found out what their opinion of the price is. So you know whether they're crazy before you show up. You don't have to find it out afterwards. And you know how much they owe, so you know if they have equity to pay you with or not. So you know whether you can help them or not before you ever show up. So then you ring the bell. Then you smile. You pay them a compliment. You take them directly to the kitchen table. You don't go on the tour. You take them directly to the kitchen table. They say, would you like to take a look at the house? You say, you know what, before I do that, I'm going to take a bunch of notes when I do that, but let's go sit over there at the kitchen table. I'm going to just chat with you for a minute. And they go, well, there's a bunch of stuff on the kitchen table. I'll help you move it, So friends sit at the kitchen table. We don't want to be in the living room, that museum of furniture that nobody's ever sat in. We want to be sitting out where we can lay out some stuff for them to look at. They'll say, well, there's some stuff there. I'll help you move it. Well, it's sticky stuff. Well, I brought Windex. We'll clean that up. Well, our son is doing his homework. Well, he ain't going to graduate. Let's go to the kitchen table. Okay, so you get him to the kitchen table. You get it? Okay, so we go to the kitchen table or the dining room table, and you sit across from the clients. So if it's husband and wife, they're both sitting across from you, not one on your left, one on your right. So they're looking at each other, and you're presenting to them. So it all starts with, the first thing I want to do is just thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to meet with you tonight. I really appreciate that. And I want to let you know that I'm not here to take a listing just for the sake of taking a listing, because anybody could do that. And by the way, are you familiar with something called the expired list? They're going to say no. Say, well, you know what? I printed one up. And what this is a list of people that have two things in common. One of them is they chose to do business with an agent that allowed them to fail. And number two is, in my opinion, those agents and those sellers never should have agreed to join forces in the first place. I think you'd agree with that. So here's what I've done. I've created a step-by-step process that if we follow it, it's going to absolutely guarantee you and I that we do not end up on a list like that. Can I share that with you? So now, what is not going through their head? The two things that were going through their head when you were walking up the driveway and they were peeking out through the vertical blinds and they were going, uh-oh, here he comes. Remember what we talked about. We're not going to be signing anything tonight, right? They were doing that. But the two things that were going through their head were, how long is this going to take? and how much does he charge? How long is this going to take, and how much does she charge? That's what's going through their head. So now that we've done that expired list introduction that every fearless agent does, what's not going through their head is how long is this going to take and how much does he charge, because they know what's at stake. This is about success or failure. So that expired list stays out as a constant reminder of dismal failure. That's what failure looks like. The expired list is a picture of failure, okay? So anytime during the presentation they get some crazy idea, they go, oh, we don't want to have our house on lockbox. You go, stop it, my ribs, you're killing me. These people didn't want to have their house on lockbox either, did they? Yeah. So constant reminder of failure, very powerful. So now they know what's at stake, and then you're going to go into the next thing. Now, one thing I want you to do is, when you become a fearless agent, coaching student, every single thing that you have been doing in your real estate career is going to change. Everything. You are not going to hear the feedback, the dumb ideas, the objections that people have. All of that is going to go away. And you're going to be booking 5 listing appointments a week. 2 of them will probably cancel. You'll be going on 3, and you'll be getting 1. So that's just the way it is. I was talking to a new fearless agent coaching student of mine yesterday, and I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before. But I said, before you were a fearless agent coaching student, how many listing appointments did you schedule a week? And he said 0.5. He was keeping track. So every other week he would schedule a listing appointment. So he's been coaching with me for 1 month, and now he's doing scheduling 5 a week. Now, normally 2 of those would cancel. He would go on 3, and he would get 1. He has currently got, in his first month, 3 listings. They are all 3 going to sell because they're priced exactly right. They're going to close. He is going to get paid. So he's dramatically increasing his income, and he will get, he's scheduling 5 listing appointments a week, so he's doing that right. His ratio will improve, and it's just fine, honestly, the way it is. So if it never improved, he'd still make plenty of money. So the things that I want you to do is, I don't ask you to memorize a lot of stuff when you're a fearless agent coaching student. There's 5 presentations. So it's listing, it's pricing, it's for sale by owner, it's buyer, it's investor, and then how to present offers. Those are really the 6, I guess, presentations that you're going to learn how to do. But you don't have to memorize all those. But the beginning of any listing presentation or any of those presentations and the close at the end, those you don't want to choke on. So I always say to people, that expired list intro that I just did, I would memorize that word for word. You'll just feel better if you do. So when I, the way my coaching works is I ship out a bunch of visual presentations to you and audio and video of me demonstrating them. You can't see me right now, so this is audio for those of you who didn't know. And then, so you'll learn them at your own pace, and then I'm going to email to you a bunch of dialogues of the stuff that I would want you to be a rock star at and memorize. So it all starts with that expired list intro right when you walk in the door. So for those of you who have maybe started in the middle of the podcast here or of the episodes, the things I want you to keep track of, and I'm not a big, I think salespeople are generally not record keepers, okay? It's not our nature. We want to just get the thing done, but there are things that I think you should keep track of. So at the maximum, I would want you to keep track of the number of hours you spend telephone prospecting, calling your sphere, calling, cold calling up and down the street, calling for sale by owners, calling expireds and canceleds, follow-up calling, and And then keep track of the number of listing appointments that you schedule each week. So this is a weekly tracking thing. And then the number of listing appointments that you actually go on and attend, the number of listings that you take, the number of sales that you make. That would be a buyer under contract. That's called sale made. And then the number of your listings that go under contract, so listings sold, and then the number of closings, paydays. And the amounts that go with that, the customer names, that kind of thing. So that would be the maximum that I would want you to keep track of. At a bare minimum, I want you to know the number of listing appointments that you schedule each week and the number of listing appointments that you go on. So if the number of listing appointments that you schedule each week, and I'm assuming, this is assuming that you want to focus on sellers mostly or only. If it's less than 5, and by the way, if any of this makes sense to you and you're scheduling fewer listing appointments than you wish you were, if you're earning less than you wish you were, and you're open to the idea of having some help. So all Fearless Agent coaching students had that going into it as they were either earning less than they wish they were, and they were open to the idea of having some help, or they were earning plenty of money, but they didn't know how to do that and have a life and take weekends off at the same time. So whether it's either of those two things, if you ever want to learn more, you can always call me anytime at 480-385-8810. That is my cell phone. I will answer it or I'll call you back. And let's just see if you and, what you're trying to do and what we do, if it would even be a good fit. So again, call me anytime, 480-385-8810. I love talking to realtors. I don't want you to think you're ever bothering me. I have nothing better to do than to make you rich. So if you have a question, you can always call me. I am not going to sell you on coaching. I'm going to find out if it is a good fit for you. If it is, great. You can't get it anyplace else. If you like what we do, nobody else does it. So we'll get you sooner or later, so we don't have to close you. So if you can't afford coaching, but you wish you could, please go to fearlessagent.com, watch our 45-minute webinar, take lots of notes, go to our video training page. My guarantee to you is that those free videos and that webinar will be better coaching for free than you would ever pay any other coach in America any amount of money for. And if you ever have a question, you can always call me anytime, because we want to help you for free so that someday you can afford us. So fearlessagent.com is where you would go for that. So, I was talking to one of my coaching students, and we were having a discussion about what had happened to him in the last 7 days. And I said, in the last week, do you know how many hours? I was talking about keeping track of this stuff. So 6.5 hours of prospecting is what he had done, in English, in the last 7 days. And he had 152 people had said no to him, okay? So a little rule of thumb is, if you want more people to say yes to you, you're going to have a whole lot more people say no to you. But while 152 people said no to him, in other words, no, I don't want to sell my house, no, I don't want to meet with you even though I'm an expired, no, I don't want to meet with you even though I'm for sale by owner, 5 people said yes and booked a listing appointment with him. So in 6.5 hours of telephone prospecting, he booked 5 listing appointments. So the question is that normal? Well, it doesn't matter. It is what happened. So for each listing appointment he scheduled, it took 1.3 hours on the phone. He had 1 listing taken, and the dollars per hour he had earned is $430 an hour. Now, if you had do that 40 hours a week, he would be making $800,000 a year. By the way, he currently is making that much. This is a while ago. That was in 2011, by the way, that I had that conversation. So when we talked about that, in 2011, I don't know if you remember what was going on then, but all the agents were bailing out of the real estate industry. It was 2008 had happened, 9, 10, 11 were very bad years. The population of realtors went way down. And so that's kind of how this works. So if you know your numbers, everything's going to be better for you. So when you set your goals, people do vision boards and stuff like that, which is, I think, a good idea to keep focused on the shallow goals that you have, like the new Corvette or something like that. But I would like for you to break those goals. So let's say, for example, you wanted to, like I'm writing a book, okay? So writing a book is hard because I've never read a book, okay? Maybe I should read a book first, I don't know. But anyway, I've seen books. But if I'm going to write a book, which I am, it should be out sometime in the year 2027 at the rate I'm going. But if I did, a page a day, well, if there's 365 days in a year, I would have a 365-page book in a year. So you break it down into little manageable things. So all these people have these vision boards, and they're always talking about how the big why is going to get you where you want to go. Well, that couldn't be farther from the truth. The big why is not the problem we've been having with you. It's your big how. So if you're going to do 40 transactions in a year, and you can't imagine doing that, it doesn't matter. You're going to do it anyway because the how is the thing that fixes it. So the way you do that is you schedule 5 listing appointments a week, and you know that 2 of them are going to cancel, and you know that you're going to go on 3, and you know you're going to get 1. Even if you weren't a fearless agent, you would get 1. Your ratio would be the same probably. The difference is if you were a fearless agent, you would be getting it at full commission. The people would be begging you to underprice their house on day 1, and you'd get a paycheck on every single listing because you wouldn't be sitting in front of people who are not real sellers, and they would be gamblers. So your goal is not 40, it's 5. If your goal is a new Corvette, you're going to have to schedule 5. If your goal is to be living in a nicer house, you're going to have to schedule 5. If your goal is to get a new Apple Mac computer, your goal is to schedule 5 because that other stuff isn't going to happen any other way. So schedule 5, 2 cancel, go on 3, get 1. So 1 listing a week. If you can do that, that's going to get you to your goal. Okay, but thinking about that goal is not going to get you to the goal. So how do you schedule 5 listing appointments a week? Well, you just don't get off the phone until you do. So, and I always use the analogy, if you were going to paint my house, you wouldn't be saying, how many brush strokes is it going to take, or how many roller strokes is it going to take, how many gallons of paint is it going to take? You just keep painting until it's painted. And when it's painted, then you're done. So if you have a week to paint my house, start painting. And when it's done on Thursday, you're done. If it takes you till Friday, doesn't matter. If you get it done in one day, who cares? But if your goal is to schedule 5, you just don't get off the phone until 5 are scheduled, and then, you could be done. Or you could keep calling and schedule 6 or 7 like many fearless agents do. So the next step, when we were talking about going on the listing presentation, after you do the expired list intro, then you're going to do what we call the preview of coming attractions. So when I was new in real estate, actually I was 5 years in real estate, when I learned this from my mentor, Floyd Wickman, who literally is the greatest sales trainer in the history of real estate, no doubt about that. This absolutely changed everything for me. So I do the expired list intro, and then I'd say, at the end of it, I'd say, can I share that with you? They'd say yes. Now I've been given permission to open up the book, and then the first page says questions, tour property, marketing plan, decision, pricing strategy, and results. And that literally is the plan for today, okay? So I say, may I share that with you? They say yes. I open up the book, and then that visual's there to remind me it's upside down. It's pointing at them. And then I said, well, the first thing I want to do is just ask you some questions. And more important to me than your house is you and your plans and how I can help you get there, or if I can help you get there. And then after that, I'm going to have you take me on the tour of your house and, point out all the improvements that you've made, all the good stuff. If you made any improvements, if there's, anything wrong with it, you can, point that out too. And then we're going to come back here to the kitchen table. I'll give you a brief but complete idea of how I do business completely differently than all other agents. At the end of that, you're going to know whether I am the agent for you or not. And if I am, then we're going to talk about the second most important decision you're going to make, and that would be the pricing. And I think more important than a price is a pricing strategy that is 1,000% going to guarantee you that your house is going to sell for tens of thousands of dollars more than it is worth. And then I will give you a very conservative idea of how much would be on the check that I would be handing you at closing, and that's net after all the expenses are paid. And I think if we do all of these things in that order, there's no chance we're going to end up on that expired list together. Fair enough? And they're going to say fair enough. Okay. So when I've done that expired list intro that gets their head right and lets them know what's at stake, that this is about success or failure, it gets that how long is this going to take and how much does he charge completely out of their heads. And then I give them the little outline, the preview of coming attractions that I just did. And they go, oh, well, this isn't going to be so bad. He's got a plan. Okay, we can relax because Bob knows what he's going to do. It makes it sound like I know what I'm doing. Now, when I learned these two things from my mentor, Floyd, I will tell you that those two things alone got me the listing most of the time. Just by doing that so much better. Now, I didn't learn all the other stuff that I needed to know, which I teach my coaching students, like the 4 questions. But then the next thing is we're going to go into the 4 questions. And in the next episode of the podcast, that's what we're going to talk about, is really getting down to the 4 questions, because that is what sells them on you. So once again, I want to thank you for joining us today. Please visit us at fearlessagent.com. You can call me directly anytime at 480-385-8810. If you think that Fearless Agent might be a good fit for you, or if you know it wouldn't be and you want to call me, you can always call me, 480-385-8810. Please do give us a review of the podcast on iTunes. That would be helpful to me. A 5-star review, for goodness sake. If they have a 10-star review, you could do that. You can visit us on Twitter, Facebook. We have the largest closed realtor-only Facebook group in the known universe, I believe. So you can go to Fearless Agent on Facebook and see us there. But until next week, as always have fun. Be humble, and most of all, be fearless. Thanks, gang.